wind howled softly through the broken walls of the old colony. Rusted lights flickered and silence ruled the night. Ethan Cole sat alone inside his tiny shelter, staring at the dull glow of his heater. Once he had worked as a mechanic for the Galactic Fleet. Now he was just a single father, surviving on canned food and memories. His son had died years ago, and since then he spoke to no one. The war had ended months ago, but its scars still burned on every planet. The humans had left this part of space, leaving behind wreckage, ghosts, and broken machines. Ethan stayed because he had nowhere else to go. Every evening he cooked what little food he had, and every night he ate alone. But tonight felt strange. As he lifted his spoon, a faint scratching came from outside the door. He froze. Out here, that sound could mean anything, a starving animal, a scavenger, or worse. Slowly, he reached for the metal rod beside him and moved toward the sound. The scratching came again, soft and desperate. "Who's there?" he called. His voice echoed in the empty colony street. No reply, only the sound of wind and breathing. He opened the door just a little. In the pale blue light of the moons, two small shapes stood outside. They were thin, too thin, wrapped in torn blankets. Their skin shimmered faintly, pale silver with faint blue veins glowing underneath. And their eyes, big, bright, and scared. Ethan blinked. Children? The taller one, maybe 8 or 9 years old, held the other close, a younger one trembling like a leaf. The older whispered something in a shaky voice. Ethan could barely hear it. "Can we eat your leftovers?" Ethan froze. His heart clenched. They were staring at the metal plate in his hand, half a bowl of soup and a piece of bread. He looked around. No one else was there, just these two fragile alien children in the cold looking at him with hope and fear. "Where are your parents?" he asked softly. The older one shook her head. "Gone. Soldiers took them." The younger one added in a weak voice, "We just want a little food." Ethan's throat felt tight. For years he had locked his heart away. He'd told himself the galaxy didn't deserve kindness anymore. But now, seeing their empty eyes broke something inside him. He slowly bent down, handing them the plate. "Here," he said. "It's not much, but it's warm." The twins hesitated. The older pushed the food toward the younger. "You first." Ethan watched as they ate carefully, like they were afraid it might disappear. When they were done, the younger twin licked his fingers, then shyly looked at Ethan. "Thank you." "Sir?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Don't call me sir." "Just Ethan." The older twin nodded. "Thank you, Ethan." He looked at them again, noticing strange patterns on their skin, glowing symbols almost like royal marks. He thought he'd seen something like that before. "But where?" "Come inside," he said at last. "It's cold out here." They stepped in slowly, glancing around his small, broken shelter. The younger twin yawned and curled up near the heater. The older one sat close, keeping watch. Ethan gave them his old blanket. "You can rest here tonight," he whispered. "Just for tonight." The older twin looked at him with wide, cautious eyes. "Why are you helping us?" Ethan sighed, staring at the flickering light. "Because someone once helped me when I was hungry." Silence filled the room. Outside, the wind continued to howl, but inside, there was warmth again. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel completely alone. As he sat near the door, half asleep, he noticed a faint light under the twins' skin pulsing in rhythm, like a hidden power or secret. He didn't know it yet, but those glowing marks would soon bring danger. In the distance beyond the clouds, mechanical eyes watched, drones scanning the ruins, searching for something. Or someone. Ethan didn't hear the soft beep of the machines. He didn't know that his act of kindness tonight would change the fate of 2 worlds. He only knew one thing. 2 hungry shadows had knocked on his door, and he couldn't let them die. Morning came slowly on the ruined colony. Pale sunlight pushed through the cracks of the metal roof, painting golden lines across the dusty floor. Ethan Cole blinked awake, his back aching from the cold. For a moment he forgot everything, until he saw the 2 small shapes huddled beside the heater. The alien twins, they were still there. Not a dream. The older one, the girl, was awake. She sat silently, watching her little brother sleep. Her silver skin reflected the light like glass, and those faint glowing marks on her neck pulsed softly, like living fireflies under her skin. Ethan stretched. "Morning," he said quietly. The girl nodded politely. "Good morning." "Ethan." Her voice was soft, careful, as if she wasn't used to saying kind words. He smiled faintly. You two must be hungry again. She hesitated, then nodded. A little. Ethan opened one of his emergency ration cans, the kind he'd saved for weeks when food was running low. The smell of warm stew filled the air. The little boy woke up, blinking his bright eyes. When he saw the food, his face lit up like sunlight after a storm. They ate together. The twins tried to eat slowly, but Ethan could see how hungry they really were. He pushed more toward them. Go on, eat, you need it more. But then something unexpected happened. The girl stopped halfway, holding the spoon. She looked at Ethan seriously and pushed the bowl back. You haven't eaten yet, she said. You share. We share, Ethan froze. The words hit him like a memory from long ago. His own son saying something similar years before the war. His throat tightened. He took a slow breath and smiled gently. All right, he said softly. We share. For a few quiet minutes they ate together. No noise, no fear. Just warmth and the sound of spoons hitting the metal bowl. It felt almost peaceful. After they finished, the twins began exploring the small room. The boy picked up a broken gear and pretended it was a toy ship. The girl found Ethan's old photo. A picture of him and a smiling human child. Is this your son? She asked. Ethan looked away for a second, his eyes darkening. He was. The girl lowered the photo gently. I'm sorry. Ethan forced a small smile. You don't have to be. He'd probably have liked you too. The boy looked up. Can we stay here? Just for a little while? Ethan hesitated. He knew it was dangerous. The colony was full of scavengers, rogue drones, and soldiers from both sides still hunting for lost tech, or survivors. He didn't even know who these kids really were. Maybe, he said slowly, but you have to tell me something first. Those marks on your neck, what are they? The girl froze. Her eyes darted toward her brother, then back at Ethan. We're not supposed to say. Ethan leaned forward. Please. If someone's after you, I need to know. She swallowed hard. They heard us when we didn't listen. Then they left us. We ran away. The marks. They mean we belong to someone, Ethan frowned. Belong to who? The girl whispered, almost afraid of her own words. The palace. The royal house of Valora. The word struck him cold. The royal house, rulers of this sector. The war had destroyed their empire. If these kids had royal symbols, it meant one thing. They were the missing heirs everyone thought had died in the bombings. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. If anyone found out they were alive, bounty hunters and soldiers would come tearing through this colony. He stood up, pacing. You can't stay here, he said under his breath. They'll find you. The boy tugged on his sleeve. Please don't send us away. We'll help. We can fix things. Ethan looked down at their pleading faces. He wanted to say no. He wanted to stay safe, alone like always. But the thought of throwing them out into the cold felt impossible. He sighed deeply. All right, just until I figure something out. The girl's eyes softened. Thank you, Ethan. That night, as the twins slept again, Ethan sat near the window staring at the dark sky filled with distant lights. He thought about his son, about the war, about how small acts of kindness had once saved his own life. Then outside, a faint red light blinked on a nearby hill, the lens of a scouting drone scanning silently. It paused on his hut, zoomed in, then vanished into the clouds. Ethan didn't see it. But far away in the command ship of the Valoran fleet, a soldier looked at a glowing screen and whispered, We found them. Inside the shelter, Ethan glanced at the twins once more and whispered to himself, What did I just bring into my life? He didn't know yet that his choice to share one meal would change the fate of the stars themselves. The next morning came with heavy clouds and the distant hum of engines. Ethan woke early, feeling something wasn't right. The air outside felt different, too still, too quiet. He looked through a crack in the metal wall and saw faint trails of smoke rising in the distance. Patrol drones. They were moving closer. Inside, the twins were still asleep, curled up under his blanket. For a moment, Ethan just watched them. There was something peaceful about it. The way they breathed in sync, the faint glow under their skin. He wondered how children could look so innocent and yet carry such a dangerous secret. He sat down at the old table and began cleaning his tools. His hands shook slightly. His mind kept repeating what the girl had said last night. The palace. The royal house of Valora. If that was true, he wasn't just hiding two lost kids. He was hiding the heirs of the most powerful alien empire left in this part of the galaxy. He ran his fingers through his hair and sighed. "What have I done?" A soft voice came from behind him. "You helped us," said the older twin. She was awake, watching him quietly. "That's not wrong." Ethan forced a small smile. "Maybe not. But people don't like when humans help your kind." She tilted her head. "Why?" He hesitated, looking at her glowing marks. "Because war makes monsters out of everyone. And sometimes, even kindness becomes dangerous." The girl lowered her eyes, silent. The boy woke up soon after, full of energy. He found Ethan's broken drone and began pressing buttons, trying to make it fly again. "Look, Ethan, I can fix it," he said proudly. Ethan smiled. "You know how to work with machines?" The boy nodded. "Our father taught us before." He paused, eyes growing sad. Ethan placed a hand on his head. "It's okay. You don't have to tell me." They ate breakfast quietly, but before they could finish, a strange sound echoed from outside. A metallic buzz followed by a robotic voice. "Scanning complete." Organic signatures detected. Ethan froze. He rushed to the door and peeked out. 3 black drones hovered above the colony street, scanning every shelter. Their red eyes glowed like blood under the morning light. He cursed under his breath. "They found us." The twins looked terrified. "What do we do?" the girl whispered. Ethan grabbed his bag, tossing food packs and old batteries inside. "We run." He opened a small hatch on the floor and a maintenance tunnel from the old days. "Down there, quick." The twins climbed in and he followed, closing the hatch behind them. The tunnel was dark and cold, the air thick with dust. They crawled for what felt like forever, hearing muffled thuds above as drones searched the surface. Finally, they reached the end, an abandoned cargo bay filled with rusted ships. Ethan pulled the hatch open slowly and looked around. No one was there. For now, they were safe. The twins looked around in awe. "What is this place?" "Old port," Ethan said. "I used to fix ships here before the war." The boy pointed at a half-broken freighter. "Can that one fly?" Ethan laughed softly. "Not yet. Maybe if I had another week." The girl stepped closer. "Ethan, those drones, they're not just soldiers. They belong to the Royal Fleet." He frowned. "You mean?" She nodded slowly. "They're searching for us." Ethan stared at her, trying to read her face. "Why? You're the royal heirs. Wouldn't they want to protect you?" The girl's eyes filled with tears. "They don't want us alive. Our uncle took the throne after the war. He said we died. If he finds us now, he'll make it true." Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. Everything made sense now, the marks, the secrecy, the fear. These kids weren't just lost. They were being hunted by their own blood. He looked around the bay, thinking fast. "Then we can't stay here. I'll fix that ship. We're leaving this planet tonight." The boy gasped. "You'd help us? Even now?" Ethan looked at them both. "You asked me for food, I gave it. That means you're my responsibility now." The girl stepped forward and hugged him suddenly. "You're kind. For a human." Ethan smiled sadly. "Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation to keep." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, but it wasn't a storm. It was the sound of engines descending. The fleet was arriving. Ethan turned toward the broken ship, his hands trembling but determined. "If I can get her flying," he muttered. "We might just make it." He didn't know yet that this act, repairing an old machine for 2 alien children, would spark the most unexpected alliance in galactic history. As sparks flew and engines hummed to life, the twins watched him with wide, hopeful eyes. And somewhere above the clouds, the Empire was coming for them. The engines roared for the first time in years. Dust and sparks filled the cargo bay as Ethan worked, sweat running down his face. The old freighter shuddered like a dying beast, but its heart still beat. He had patched power lines, rebuilt the fuel cells, and rerouted the reactor by hand. Every second mattered now. Outside, the sky thundered with the sound of landing ships. The Royal Fleet had arrived, dark, sharp vessels glowing with crimson lights. Searchlights swept across the ruins like hunting eyes. The twins huddled near the ramp, watching him. The boy clutched a small piece of metal, one of Ethan's old tools, as if it were a lucky charm. The girl stood tall, though her hands trembled. "Is it ready?" she asked, almost, Ethan said, twisting a wire. "She's old, but she's got spirit." The ship rumbled again. The engine spat out fire, then steadied with a low hum. Ethan grinned. "We've got power." But before they could celebrate, a red beam of light cut across the cargo bay door. A drone hovered outside, scanning. "They found us." the girl shouted. Ethan slammed a lever. Hold on tight. The ship's thrusters ignited, blasting through the half-open gate. Metal tore apart as the freighter pushed into the sky. The twins screamed, gripping the seats as they shot upward into the stormy clouds. Altitude rising, Ethan shouted, wrestling the controls. We're not safe yet. Behind them, a dozen small fighters broke from the fleet and followed. The black sky lit up with laser fire. Blue streaks flashed past the windows. The hull groaned and alarms screamed in protest. The boy covered his ears. They're shooting at us. Yeah, no kidding. Ethan barked, pulling the ship into a dive. The old freighter wasn't built for combat, but Ethan knew how to fly dirty. He weaved between the clouds, spinning sharply through debris and lightning. The girl looked out the window. We're not fast enough. They'll catch us. Ethan smirked. Not if we go where they won't follow. He flipped a switch on the dashboard. The radar flickered, revealing a dense field of asteroids ahead, sharp spinning rocks drifting across space like floating knives. Are you crazy? She yelled. Completely, he said. Buckle up. The ship plunged straight into the asteroid field. The twins screamed again as massive stones tumbled around them. Ethan's hands danced over the controls, eyes locked on the narrow paths between the rocks. The hull scraped once, twice, but held firm. The enemy fighters followed, but the asteroids were less forgiving. One crashed and exploded. Another was crushed between two spinning stones. Ethan laughed breathlessly. Let's see them handle that. The boy peeked over the seat, eyes wide with excitement. You're amazing. Don't tell anyone, Ethan said with a grin. I have a reputation for being boring. The girl managed a small smile, but her gaze drifted to the stars beyond. Where will we go now? Ethan's smile faded. He looked out the window. Endless black space stretched before them. Somewhere safe. Somewhere the Empire can't reach. As they cleared the asteroid field, the radar showed only silence. The pursuers were gone. For the first time since the war, Ethan let himself breathe. He switched the ship to autopilot and leaned back, exhausted. The boy unbuckled and floated slightly in the low gravity, laughing. We're flying, Ethan. We're really flying. Ethan chuckled, watching them play. Yeah, we made it through the stars, kid. The girl floated close, her voice softer now. You didn't have to help us. You could have given us to them and taken the reward. Ethan looked at her seriously. I didn't do it for money. He paused. I did it because no one helped me when I needed it most. I couldn't let that happen again. The girl's eyes glistened. You're a good man, Ethan Cole. He shook his head. No, just a man trying to be better. For a while, silence filled the cabin. Peaceful, almost sacred. The stars shimmered outside like cold fireflies. But peace never lasts long. A soft beeping came from the console. Ethan frowned and checked the screen. A signal was pulsing faintly. A transmission bouncing from their ship. He froze. That's not possible. I shut down the beacon. The girl's face went pale. A tracking device, she whispered. It must be inside the ship. Ethan's stomach dropped. They weren't free. The fleet would find them again soon. He slammed his fist on the console. Damn it. The boy looked scared again. What do we do? Ethan turned to them, eyes hard but calm. We don't stop running, not yet. I'll find that tracker and rip it out with my bare hands. The ship drifted through the stars, glowing softly in the dark. Behind them, far away, the Royal Fleet recalibrated its scanners. The hunt wasn't over, but for the first time in years, Ethan wasn't running alone. He had two small reasons to keep fighting, and together, they would light up even the darkest corners of the galaxy. The freighter drifted silently through the dark ocean of stars. The hum of the engines was the only sound, steady and tired, like a heartbeat keeping them alive. Ethan sat in the cockpit, staring at the blinking red light on the control panel. The signal wouldn't stop. He'd already ripped half the circuits apart trying to kill the tracker, but it kept returning, like a ghost refusing to die. The twins slept in the small cargo bay wrapped in blankets. They looked peaceful, almost like normal children. But Ethan couldn't rest. He knew the Royal Fleet was out there, scanning every corner of the system. Sooner or later, they'd find them again. His thoughts were interrupted by a crackling sound, the comms. A voice rough and familiar came through. Ethan? Ethan Cole, is that you? This is Captain Doran. Ethan froze. Doran, an old name from his past. They'd served together during the war. Two mechanics who'd survived too many battles. Doran had left after the armistice, saying he was going to start a trading company. Ethan pressed the receiver. "Doran, you're alive?" A rough laugh came back. "Barely. I picked up your signal by accident. You're a long way from home, brother. What the hell are you doing in Valoran space?" Ethan hesitated. "It's complicated. I need repairs and maybe a safe dock for a few hours." Doran's tone softened. "You sound desperate. Send me your coordinates. I'll meet you near the Orion Drift. No questions asked." Ethan's instincts screamed caution, but he had no other choice. He needed supplies, fuel, maybe help. And Doran was the only human he trusted left in this part of space. He sent the coordinates. Hours later, the twins woke as the freighter approached a massive asteroid field. Hidden inside was a small human outpost, one of Doran's secret trading stations. A handful of lights blinked along the surface like stars buried in stone. Ethan guided the ship down carefully. The docking clamps hissed, sealing them inside. The airlock opened and Doran appeared. Taller, older, with a short beard and tired eyes. "Ethan Cole," he said with a grin, spreading his arms. "Didn't think I'd ever see you again." Ethan smiled faintly. "Still ugly as ever, I see." They hugged quickly, and for a moment it felt like old times. But Doran's eyes shifted toward the twins behind Ethan. "Who are the kids?" "Travelers," Ethan said carefully. "Orphans from the war." Doran raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. "You always had a soft heart, brother. Come on. Let's get you food and fuel." They sat in the mess hall, eating in silence. The twins stayed close to Ethan, wary of strangers. Doran's crew, a mix of humans and aliens, watched them with curiosity. "So," Doran said, sipping his drink, "you said it's complicated. What's going on?" Ethan sighed. "Let's just say, the wrong people are after us." Doran leaned back. "The wrong people, huh? You always find trouble." Ethan gave a tired smile. "This time trouble found me." There was a pause. Then Doran's tone changed, and softer, almost too kind. "Listen, I've got contacts. If you tell me who's after you, maybe I can help." "No need to run forever," Ethan hesitated. Something in Doran's eyes made him uneasy. But the warmth of food and the calm of the station dulled his instincts. "They're royal," Ethan said quietly. "Valoran, the kids, they're important." Doran's expression didn't change, but his fingers tapped the table. "Royal, you say?" "Don't get ideas," Ethan said, narrowing his eyes. "They're just children, and I'm keeping them safe." "Of course," Doran said quickly, smiling again. "Of course you are." That night, Ethan checked on the ship. The twins were already asleep in their bunks. The boy was holding one of Ethan's old wrenches like a toy. It made him smile. But when he returned to the mess hall, the lights were dim. Doran stood near a communicator, speaking quietly into it. Ethan froze in the shadows. "Yes, I have them. The human and the twins. You'll pay the full bounty, right?" Ethan's blood ran cold. He stepped forward, voice sharp. "Doran!" Doran turned slowly, guilt flashing across his face. "Ethan, listen. You sold me out?" Ethan's voice shook with rage. "After everything?" Doran sighed, lowering his weapon. "You don't understand, brother. The bounty could rebuild this station." "I'm sorry." Ethan didn't wait. He lunged forward, knocking the gun aside. They fought, fists, rage, and betrayal echoing through the hall. Doran slammed Ethan into a wall, but Ethan headbutted him back, roaring like a beast. A red alarm blared suddenly. Outside the viewport, warships appeared, royal insignias glowing bright. The twins rushed in, terrified. "Ethan!" Ethan grabbed them both, blood on his lip. "To the ship, now!" They ran through smoke and flashing lights as Doran shouted behind them. "Ethan, they'll kill you!" Ethan turned once at the hatch. "Then I'll die doing what's right." The freighter launched seconds before the fleet's lasers struck the station. The explosion lit the stars, and Doran's outpost vanished in flame. Inside the ship, the twins cried silently as Ethan piloted through chaos. His hands shook, pain burning in his side where Doran's blade had grazed him. The boy whispered, "You saved us again." Ethan smiled weakly. That's what dads do. Outside, the fire faded and the stars waited. But now the chase had become personal. The Empire wanted their heirs. Ethan wanted redemption, and between the two, the galaxy was about to change forever. The freighter limped through space like a wounded bird. Half the lights were dead, the hull was scorched, and warning alarms whispered softly every few seconds. Ethan's hands trembled over the flight controls. The stab wound on his side throbbed, but he ignored it. He had one mission left: get the twins to safety. Behind him, the alien children sat quietly. The girl wrapped a cloth around his wound, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "You're bleeding again," she said softly. "I've had worse," Ethan muttered, forcing a smile. "Just a scratch." The boy looked up from the co-pilot seat. "Where are we going now?" Ethan stared at the navigation screen. There was only one destination left: Valora Prime, the heart of the Empire. The place where their story had begun and might end. He took a deep breath. "Home," he said. "We're taking you home." The girl's expression tightened. "But that's where they'll kill us." Ethan looked at her steadily. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll finally see the truth." Outside, the stars stretched into streaks as the freighter jumped into hyperspace. When they emerged, the sight stole their breath. Valora Prime filled the viewport, a world of golden clouds and crystal towers that shimmered like ice under sunlight. The capital glowed with the power of ancient technology and royal pride. The twins pressed their faces to the glass, eyes wide with memories and fear. "We were born there," the boy whispered, "in the palace near the twin waterfalls." Ethan guided the freighter toward the planet's orbit. The scanners immediately screamed, "Warning, unauthorized human vessel detected." Dozens of royal ships surrounded them in seconds. Laser sights locked on their hull. A stern voice filled the comms. "Human vessel, identify yourself or be destroyed." Ethan didn't flinch. "This is Ethan Cole. I have something your queen needs to see." There was silence, then another voice, colder. "The queen does not negotiate with smugglers." "Prepare to be boarded," Ethan sighed. "So be it." He switched the comms to broadcast mode and turned to the twins. "Hold tight." The next moment, royal soldiers stormed their ship. The children screamed as Ethan tried to shield them. Metal hands grabbed him, forcing him to his knees. "Don't hurt them," he shouted. "They're children." One of the officers stepped forward, scanning the twins. The scanner beeped sharply. The officer froze. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their DNA matches the royal bloodline." Gasps filled the room. The soldiers lowered their weapons in shock. Ethan's voice was hoarse. "Take them to their mother." The palace was vast, walls of living crystal, glowing with veins of blue energy. Ethan had never seen anything so magnificent. Yet he could barely stand. The guards dragged him through the corridors, blood still dripping from his wound. At the end of a long hall sat the Valoran queen, tall, elegant, her eyes like burning silver. She rose slowly as her children entered, trembling. "My stars," she whispered, covering her mouth. "My babies." The twins ran to her. The boy clung to her robe. The girl buried her face in her arms. The queen knelt, holding them tightly, tears falling down her cheeks. "They said you were gone," she whispered. "They told me you died." Ethan stood back, watching silently. A strange warmth filled his chest. He'd seen death, war, betrayal, but this was something rare, something pure. Then the queen looked at him. Her expression hardened. "And who are you, human?" Ethan bowed weakly. "Just someone who fed them when no one else would." Her eyes glimmered with confusion and pain. "You risked your life. For my children?" Ethan nodded. Didn't seem right to let them starve. Silence filled the throne room. Every guard watched, waiting for her judgment. Then slowly the queen knelt before him. "No one from your kind has ever shown mercy to ours," she said. "You broke the cycle." Ethan blinked. "I didn't mean to start anything big. I just did what anyone decent would do." The queen smiled sadly. "That's exactly why it matters." She turned to her soldiers. "Call off the hunt. End the propaganda. This man is under my protection." The twins ran back to Ethan, hugging his arms. "We told you she would listen," the girl said, beaming through tears. Ethan smiled weakly. "Guess I owe you two for teaching me faith again." Later, as he sat on the palace balcony, the queen joined him. Below them, the city lights shimmered like fallen stars. "You've done more than save 2 lives," she said. "You've reminded my people what compassion looks like." Ethan looked out at the horizon. "Maybe now humans and Velerans can stop seeing each other as monsters." The queen nodded. "Perhaps. And it started with leftovers." Ethan chuckled softly. "Yeah, funny how the smallest kindness can echo across galaxies." The night air was calm, but something new was stirring. Hope. Weeks passed since that day in the royal palace. The story of the human who saved the lost heirs spread across the galaxy faster than light. Ethan Cole, once a nameless janitor and broken father, was now known as the man who melted the Queen's heart. He never asked for fame. He didn't care about rewards, medals, or grand speeches. All he wanted was peace, something he hadn't felt since the war. Now he had it. Ethan sat in a quiet garden behind the palace. The alien sun shone warm and golden through the crystalline trees, casting silver reflections across the pools of water. The air smelled of flowers that glowed faintly, and the sound of distant songs floated through the breeze. The twins were playing nearby, the boy trying to build a small ship from scrap metal, the girl chasing glowing insects with laughter that could make any heart smile. Their laughter was something Ethan thought he'd never hear again, the sound of innocent joy. He leaned back on the bench, his body still weak from the wound. His bandages were fresh, a sign that someone still cared enough to make sure he healed. The Queen's medic said he should have died, but somehow his stubborn heart had kept beating. He smiled softly. "Guess I'm not done yet." A familiar voice came from behind him. "No, you're not." He turned to see Queen Saralyn of Valora, radiant as the sun, walking gracefully toward him. She wore no crown today, just a simple robe. She looked less like a ruler and more like a mother, calm, grateful, and human in her own way. "You should be resting," she said gently. "I've had enough rest to last a lifetime," Ethan replied with a tired grin. "Besides, someone has to keep those two from blowing up the palace." The Queen laughed softly, a sound rare for a monarch. She sat beside him watching her children. "They talk about you every hour," she said. "They say you're their father now." Ethan's eyes softened. "I'm not their father, I just filled an empty chair for a while." She shook her head. "Blood doesn't make a father, Ethan. Love does." The words hit deeper than any wound he'd ever taken. For a long moment, neither spoke. They simply watched the twins and symbols of a future born from mercy. Finally, the Queen turned to him. "You changed everything, you know. When my council learned a human risked his life for our heirs, they demanded war again. But the people," she smiled faintly, "the people refused. They wanted peace." Ethan looked at her. "All that from a bowl of leftovers?" She chuckled softly. "From kindness. That's rarer than any weapon." He looked down, thoughtful. "Maybe we've all forgotten what it means to care. The war made us blind. Maybe it takes 2 hungry kids to remind the galaxy what matters." The Queen nodded. "Your compassion broke a wall that stood for centuries. Humans and Velerans are already trading again. Embassies are reopening. They even want to name a peace station after you." Ethan groaned. "Please don't, I'm terrible with publicity." She laughed. "You may not want it, but you've earned it. You're not just a hero, Ethan, you're hope." He looked away, blinking back emotion. "I'm just a man who couldn't watch children starve." The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's exactly why you're the best of your kind." That evening, as the twin suns set over Valora Prime, a grand ceremony began in the Capitol Plaza. Thousands gathered, aliens and humans alike, their faces glowing under the soft blue light. At the center stood the Queen with her children, and beside them, Ethan Cole. When the crowd saw him, they rose in silence, not out of fear or duty, but respect. The Queen's voice carried across the city. "This man, a stranger from another world, reminded us that kindness is stronger than hatred and love is stronger than war. From this day forth he shall be known as the father of 2 worlds." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the sky. Ethan stood there awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck, unsure how to react. The twins ran to him, grabbing his hands. The boy whispered, "We told everyone you're our dad now." Ethan smiled, his voice rough with emotion. "Then I guess I'm the luckiest man alive." Above them, fireworks painted the night sky, not weapons of destruction, but colors of peace. Ethan looked up and whispered to himself, "For once, humanity did something right." And as the stars shimmered over Valora Prime, the galaxy remembered not the war, not the pain, but the story of a human who shared his leftovers and fed the hearts of 1,000 worlds.